Hello. Since the beginning of the lockdown, enforced by the caretaker government of Leo Varadkar, people have had to comply with so many arduous rules which made them stop going to work, stop seeing their families, even when people were being buried. Families were not allowed to go and see their loved ones. Wives whose husbands were dying were not allowed to go and see their husbands because of social distancing rules put in by this Fine Gael government. And yet, what did we see yesterday? We saw thousands of people walking down the streets in Dublin. No social distancing rules there. No, no, no. Big clumps of people shouting over what? An issue in America, not in Ireland. So in Ireland, over 1,000 people, old people, have died in care homes. As Dr. Marcus de Bruin noted, without oxygen, without proper palliative care, without proper PPE for the nurses who were looking after them. They weren't even allowed to be tested. They weren't put into hospital. They were, wow, what has happened in old people's homes in Ireland really will have to be investigated. And if negligence is found, there really should be criminal charges put on those responsible, i.e. the Minister of Health, Simon Harris. That's what I believe anyway. But anyway, back to the point. So we had a large march about, now they say it's about the death of George Floyd in the States, who was murdered by a police officer. The police officer has been charged. Now in the States, Ireland, it's funny, we have these huge issues of mass unemployment in Ireland. I think it's 1.2 million people are now on supplementary some type of supplementary welfare because they're unemployed and their income isn't big enough to support them, especially those with families, those who are married. But all these virtue signalers, all these the professional protest class who were out there yesterday, many of them, no doubt, their incomes funded as part of NGO workers and NGOs in Ireland, supposedly non-government organisations, are funded up to the tune of 5.5 billion euro each year. I think that's 8% of the government's total spend each year, which is basically political echo chambers funded by the taxpayer and decided upon by the government. Quite a disgraceful, and of course we saw many of these NGOs supporting, and along with Antifa and Siru, basically thugs, were at a counter-protest when Irish Freedom Party had helped organise a free rally in favour of free speech there before Christmas. So the whole thing is a farce. The Leo Varadkar, by implicitly supporting that march that took place yesterday, is lauding something which broke all government enforced rules about social distancing. It shows that there are far too many people in Ireland, the protest class, are only interested in, or mostly interested in, what goes on overseas, and they have no real interest in protesting against the government. And of course RTE, the Irish Times and the Irish Independent, hardly a whisper about the breaking of the social distancing rules, which me and you, we're all supposed to keep. But if you're politically correct and you've got the right views and you're supportive of the government in general, that's fine. So what we see as well is political policing. We've seen it before. If the protests agree more or less with the government agenda, you'll get away with that. That will be fine. But if you want to really protest against the government, expect trouble from the police. The Irish Freedom Party members were prevented from going to welcome Vice President Pence there a number of months ago. We were no threat to anybody. We went there to welcome the man. Of course, the politicised Garda under orders, no doubt, or sympathetic nudge, nudge, wink, wink from Charlie Flanagan and the new RUC head of the Garda made sure that we were blocked from going to welcome the Vice President of the States in Ireland. But so Leo Varadkar has lost all moral authority. We have been made to keep these social distancing rules. If he is easy and happy that thousands of people broke that yesterday, so that says to me that he has no moral authority to keep this farce going, that there's far too many people here are suffering economically. The number of people who are catching COVID every day is going down. The number of deaths is now very low. The whole thing will peter out quite naturally. And I believe if we take the proper precautions, and I believe it's time to end the lockdown, let people get back to work and regain the basic freedoms which are outlined in the Irish Constitution, and that's what we got to do. We got to open up the country, get people back to work, and get on with their lives as soon as possible. And Leo Varadkar and co can be damned. My name is Herman Kelly. I'm president of the Irish Freedom Party. Gora Magatsa.